coming through when the growth look good on you. Best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keeps dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Big up, big up, big up, people. What is going on, SG? You already know what time it is. You know what it is. We're back in the damn building again. And today we are here to talk about the man who's dividing opinion currently in this fan base. Do you know what I mean? You know, the guy who everyone keeps talking about, you know, over the last, we're in July now, maybe over the last like 2 months, you know, we're talking about, you know, a guy who is on everyone's lips, should I say, you know, and that is Curtis Jones. That is Curtis Jones. Big up K Mac in the building. But obviously tonight, joining us this evening in tonight's discussion, I've got Quasi, we've got Ish, we've got K Mac in the damn building. How are you guys doing this evening?
Good.
Everything good. Everything good. Thank you for having me.
All good. All good. Great to be here. Massive fan of CJ.
I can imagine. Don't worry. Save all of that. Save all of that.
I will.
Honestly, big up and big up anyone who's obviously in the chat already. I see Revenite. I know obviously Enz has got his box to box show with Savage. I know a lot of you are obviously over there at this current moment in time. So big up those guys on that side of the map. But guys, again, thank you for joining me this evening. So obviously, look, I wanted to have a little chat about Curtis Jones because there's been a lot of talk. You know, there's been, I don't know what side of the fence, obviously, everybody sits on. Obviously, you know, K-Mac said, you know, big fan of CJ. And, you know, I can see why, you know, especially over, you know, these last, you know, couple of months, you know, he's really, in my opinion anyway, he's really shown what he's about in terms of what he can do and what he can offer, you know, the team. Quasi, Ish, before we obviously came with you, obviously you dive into it as well. Talk to me, man. Curtis Jones, like, is it hype? Is it we're underrating him? Is it like, chat to me, man? Chat to me. Like, how do you guys feel currently when we're talking about Curtis Jones? Anyway.
Curtis got skills. He got talent. We can't take that away from him. It's unfortunate that he gets injured the most obscure way that makes no sense. You know? And it's just like somebody's poking him in the eye. Like, it doesn't make sense. And there have been players like that in the past where, like, wait, what? You injured? Like even Joey's in the international break, and they say he breaks down and he needs back home. That makes no sense. But the thing with CJ is, I think he's one of those players where you, like, he could go by his temperament. You have to take your time with it. And I could see why. And then for myself, I'm even frustrated at times where I say Klopp is babying him way too much. He needs to be thrown to the wolves a couple of times so that he had that sink or swim. So a couple of times I'm like, send him on loan and let him go struggle a little bit. Learn that everything is not the VIP section of Liverpool all the time. You know, get some what they call it, some elbow grease on yourself. You know, go there and struggle a little bit and then come out, because that makes you a better person. And actually, I would even want him to go to outside England, you know, go to Spain or Germany, or even France, where you learn a new style of play and incorporate it into your game. But personally, I don't think he is not overhyped. Yes, the Liverpool, because he's a Scouser, it comes with the territory, and he's played for Liverpool, so that part comes in it. But he does have the talent, and I think if he gets consistent playing chance, we will see it. But it also boils down to him to be kicking the door, saying that I am him and I want to play. You can't just sit back and let the manager pick you whenever he needs you. No, you have to let the manager know, I'm here. Yes, Salah could be your favorite, but if Salah gets injured, I'm here, you know? So that's why I think he needs to let Klopp knows that, because the talent speaks for itself.
No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you there still. Ish, chat to me, man. What are you telling me about Curtis?
Do I think he's overrated?
By the way, I like that top.
Yeah, I had to pull out the big guns tonight, man. Because I see we were trying to run it back with a new away kit, but no.
No. I don't like that. I like this one.
That is a pen kit.
Thank you very much. But yeah, Curtis, is he overrated? I don't think he's overrated. I think the kind of love and the flowers he's getting at the moment is pretty deserved. Like he said, he's put together a run of about 2 months or so where he's been in pretty good form, adding goals to his game. He looks better off the ball as well. He looks much better off the ball. Looks like he's got a bit more aggression into his game as well. I always thought of him as a bit passive when we're playing sometimes, or drifting out of games. His press won't be as intense as some other players. I think he's added that to his game as well. He looks good. Balled out for the under 21s. Obviously, people say it's only under 21s, but he actually looked head and shoulders above a lot of the players he came up against. You're looking at players like even Willington as well, like your Thuram's or Kone's. I know Kone got injured, but if you're putting him up against Curtis, you're seeing that Curtis looks much better than these players right now. The players that were linked with 50, 40 million pound signings. So that's a good sign. But I'll be honest, I was ready to give up on Curtis. Like Kwasi said, the injuries were kind of piling up. I was just thinking, look, this is just another Ox Thiago type situation. It's like, yeah, you're good, but I need to see you kind of be available a bit more. But he's turned it around. As it stands right now, if we play this formation that we've been playing before, you kind of say it might be between him and McAllister for that sort of left-sided 10 role. At the moment, McAllister's got to kind of earn the right to get into the team because Curtis is on good form. I would start if the Chelsea game's tomorrow and Curtis is fit. You start Curtis, to be honest, going on form. So it's looking good. But he needs to carry it on. I'm not getting too carried away yet.
No. I feel you, man. Okay, man. Chat to me. I know you're a big Curtis Jones fan. Chat to the people, man. Tell me what you're thinking about Curtis Jones, especially over this last couple of months as well. Euros, back in the last season.
So the whole thing about Jones is a hype. All you need to do is look back over history, and we've got another player which is a generational talent, just like Curtis Jones, should have come along the same path, and that's Trent Alexander-Arnold. He came into the team when he was 18, just like Jones did, and he kicked up a storm. He got thrown in at the Wolves, and he got rinsed as well, Trent, at the Man United games by Rashford. He got rinsed a few times, took the critics, got on with it, got back, but he got the chance to come back in. I have no idea why Jones didn't. Jones had some brilliant games when he was 18. Scored that wonder goal against Everton. Got us into I think he got us into a cup final, didn't he? Or even a semi-final, maybe. But he got his chance in the cup games. He got played in a couple of the Prem games. He's never had a bad game. I'd really like someone to come back to me and go, this is the game Jones had. These are the mistakes that he made. Because he doesn't. He's a solid 7 out of 10 every single game. Now, the thing about Jones now, he's now knocking on 22, 23 years old. He's had a lot of years wasted where he could have played in the Gini Wijnaldum position that we replaced Gini Wijnaldum with a Thiago. He could have been that guy. And I'm really disappointed that he wasn't, because he should have been given the chance to be that guy, and he just wasn't. He kept on getting played in loads of different positions. And I'm still confused why he can't play on the right. Why was he never been given a chance on the right?
It's true.
He could have done that Hendo position when Hendo was flagging a long time. Even 2 years ago, when that position probably needed some replacement. And what Ish said is spot on. Literally, you watch Curtis Jones in the under 21s. He looks like a seasoned international playing with children. He just stands tall. And you look at a player like that and you think, he's our midfielder. He's our guy. And the thing about it as well is you have to be that to be in a Liverpool midfield. You have to be that guy. You ain't getting in a Liverpool midfield if you're garbage. You're getting in a Liverpool midfield, especially when we won the title. You're getting in a Liverpool midfield when you are top draw. And he was getting in when he was 18, 19, 20. He's always been there or thereabout. He's had some weird injuries, poke in the eye. Henderson poked him in the eye, by the way. I just thought I'd say that.
Oh, was it Henderson?
Was it Henderson?
Yeah.
Well,
The agenda.
But look, you look at some generational players who came on to be absolute monsters. One of them was Izu. He came in when he's 23, 24. Okay? Don't write players off because of their age. Like, he doesn't have to be a first team international player at the age of 20 to be all that. He can still be a great player for Liverpool coming in at 23. And Ish is right. Like, the other players have to earn their place ahead of him now.
I'm liking what you guys are saying, to be honest with
Sorry
you.
about my dog barking, by the way. Sorry.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. 12, chat to me, man.
Yes.
Just really, just like a little, in terms of, Curtis Jones's form towards the back end of last season, and obviously
Right.
heading into the Euros and his kind of performances within that. Like, just chat to me really about Curtis Jones. Is it a case of, is it a case of is he being overhyped or is he underrated in your own opinion?
I think if anything, he's finally being given credit for a player that has just needed time to develop, a player that just needed time to, come into his own shoes, being such a young player, being someone out of the academy, which is a rarity for this club to have an academy player perform with the first team on a somewhat consistent basis. He just needed that form. And I mean, realistically, look, I can disagree with K-Mac somewhat in that I don't believe he's always had a 7 out of 10 performance. I believe that he has had some learning spells throughout his evolution of being a player. But there is something that I can say about Curtis Jones is that he has finally gotten it. And it seems like now with the confidence that he's gotten, look, before Leicester, he hadn't scored since 2021, I believe, or something like that. Okay. So it had been a long, lengthy period before we had really seen him be able to contribute, at least in the goal aspect of it, But once he did score, and then he scored again, I think in Tottenham, against the Spurs, Henderson said it himself. The man who came back again pointed out that he poked him in the eye. He pointed out the fact. Yeah, right. He pointed out the fact of these stats. Once he gained confidence, that goal, and once they got on that run together as a team collectively, when a team can get confidence, it can be infectious. And what I started to see amongst this team was that Curtis Jones grew in stature in his own confidence simply from that. And what happened was, I believe he's technically very good when it comes to being in tight spaces already. I already knew that part from his academy days because he was able to dribble the ball, get around all these players and every such. But then he had to adjust that to the Premier League. He had to adjust that to players that can really shut that down. And what was very unique is that he was molded into this Ginny role that took a little bit of an adaptation for him to get used to. And that Ginny role was in terms of counter pressing and winning the ball back. That was the main attribute that Henderson mentioned, that Klopp mentioned, that once he started to get that as his priority in his game, he became a different player. He became that player that could really fit in amongst these superstars that were surrounding him, that for a long time he was kind of taking a back seat or conceding for them to do all the work, apparently, as opposed to knowing his role and knowing how he can actually complement those other teammates.
Nah, again, making very, very good point. I think everyone's kind of touched on it from both sides of it, Kwasi and Ish, speaking about, because I kind of fall into their kind of side of things in terms of prior to maybe this run of form, that he's been on this purple patch, whatever you want to call it, whether this is just him now, I guess it remains to be seen. But prior to that, I mean, I don't think many of us would have really bat an eyelid, if he had left, if he still wasn't getting the game time. We've had such a poor season that if he didn't get the game time, even then, a bit like Fabio Carvalho, you know, not being able to get game time, even during a period of time when we are really, really bad, kind of tells you a little bit of something, or at least tells you what Klopp is thinking a little bit in his mind, you know, because he's not getting that game time. He did finally get that game time. And as, you know, 12 said, as K-Mac has said, like, he's always had this talent. He has always had the talent, and you've always known that he's had this level of talent. The problem is, if you're not getting a run of games, it does start to send a little bit of a message to you, just under this manager, not to say you can't have a career, of course you can, but just under this manager, in this team, 12, you said it there, you're playing with these elite players, you know, getting into that midfield, it wasn't happening. It just one of those kind of things, you know, at that time, it just wasn't happening. But now he's obviously been able to kind of, you know, become a fixture in the side. The way I look at that, though, is, and I guess this question for everybody is, how do you guys kind of see it then? Obviously, he was young when he broke through, so I'm not expecting him to burst through like Lionel Messi and, you know, just force his way in and sell Ronaldinho and, you know, we start doing all these amazing things. I'm not expecting that, you know, in the slightest. So obviously, he's not that type of guy. But Liverpool were up here and he couldn't get in. We dropped and he gets in. Where do we go from here moving forward into next season in terms of the kind of role? Ish mentioned it before about McAllister's got to kind of like, you know, earn that kind of place effectively, you know, in the squad, which I totally understand because Curtis Jones had such a good back end. But or should I say, do you think McAllister is not a better player than a Jones? Or do you just think because Jones is in that form, he should just continue playing and then obviously McAllister just kind of figure it out as he goes along? Ish, I'll go to you first, obviously, because you mentioned it earlier on.
I think it's good to be in a position where a player of McAllister's caliber doesn't just walk straight into the team. Like, it's good that we've already got a Curtis Jones in there. He's playing well and is playing like at a level, like I said, where he deserves to be starting right now. Is he better than McAllister? To be fair, there's a world where they could exist in the same midfield. Like, McAllister can play the deeper role as well. He's played as in the double pivot for Brighton last season with Caicedo, so he could come in that way. But I think that he's going to come into play in one of those two kind of 10 positions. So it'll be interesting to see. But I just think it's a good sign. It's a good sign that you've got players that are just like you don't have to bring in straight away. Like Fabinho, when he first came, I remember I think Arsenal away was one of his first games. Terrible that game. I was thinking this guy looks absolutely cooked. Came out of the team for a little bit, came back in again, then kind of kicked him from there. So like, if we have to kind of bring these guys in bit by bit, it's just a good sign. Because I think we saw last season, Gakpo kind of came straight in, got thrown into Tino, wasn't playing well, took him a few games to kind of get going. But in an ideal world, we could have just kind of brought him in here and there. Maybe had Firmino fit at a time and could have done something like that. But we had to just bring him straight in. So for me, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. But I just think you got to play the players who you're playing on good form, especially to start the season as well. So I think Curtis, if he looks good after the Euros and that and he gets a good break, I would still start him, to be fair.
Kwasi, do you agree with that? Do you look at that and think, I mean, we signed McAllister, we signed Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones still has to play. Again, I'm not against all four, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here, just to kind of see where is everyone's mind kind of at this moment in time with someone like a Curtis Jones, because I do think it is a very, very tricky one where we don't know if this is just a purple patch because the sample size is quite small. Whereas McAllister, we've got a bigger sample size of what he can do. And we've got him in now. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, this preseason is going to be a big tell. And McAllister is way matured in his playing style, which fits Klopp perfectly, that he will be ahead of Jones. The thing with Jones is his final third is the problem. If he can polish that this preseason to the season, then Klopp is going to have a big headache because he is our goal-scoring attacker, right? To me, the midfield, yes, McAllister, it's in the top two in terms of that left side, because you guys also forgetting by a guy by the name of Thiago, who also, when fit, Klopp will start him. And Thiago, when fit, I'm sorry, Jones, you're not going in front of Thiago. And now, I think now that it's good that Klopp has all these players in one position that he could move them around and choose when to play them, because we're going to be in a lot of games. So he will be able to give Jones a lot of games to play for him to be playing consistently, because the Premier League games, I don't think he's going to get consistent playing. So he will have to find it elsewhere, which is the Europa, which is also good that we are in Europa, because if we're in the Champions League, he would have been getting match games. So now in the Europa, he could play all the Europa games, which will get him ready, because yes, under 21, he's above them. But now he's going to be playing with some grown folks now. You see what I mean? There's need to be maturity, especially his style of play. It's a very flair type of style. It's not close to Coutinho, but he has a lot of flair. So even with your flair, you need to show maturity, and which is where McAllister comes in, where he is very straight to the point, does exactly what the manager type does, which reminds us of Gini, right? Gini was not the most fanciest player out there, but when it came to take care of his job, he did it. So Jones will have to show us that, okay, now you are above these group of people. Now, can you show us that you are in the club with the grown folks now? It's fun and games when you're killing the under 21s. But what about the grown folks? Because the Premier League is not under 21s. We're dealing with grandfathers and baby daddies. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part where I want to see. So, and I'm kind of a little bit disappointed that the under 21 went so far, because he won't get that much games in the preseason. He's gonna be on vacation till what, 2 weeks? So he won't get that much games. But if he does, I'm telling you, he just needs consistent games. And if he does get consistent, Klopp is going to have a lot of headache, which is a beautiful thing for Liverpool, because guess what? We need that competition in the middle. Because anybody he brings on, City takes Foden out, they bring Grealish. If Klopp were to take McAllister out, he's bringing Jones. With Jones is almost equal or identical as McAllister in certain aspects. So it's good things.
No, I feel you, man.
But I don't think he will start. That's my to answer the question with the blah blah that I've said. I don't think he'll start right.
No. To be fair, look, you said it there anyway. I think I forgot about preseason, him coming back later, meaning he's gonna get shorter time, obviously, to do the training and all that kind of stuff. So maybe just out of that necessity, he just might not start anyway. So yeah, I can see that. To be honest with you.
Sorry to cut you. The only good thing is that
no.
I know he went all the way in the competition, but he went all the way and won. It's not like he went all the way to the final and lost. I still think he'll be on.
I mean, and he scored, So.
Yeah, exactly. And he got a goal as well, which I say he meant. He definitely meant that flick. But yeah, I think at least him and Harvey, they went all the way. They both played well as well. It's not like one of them had bit part minutes. They were just there kind of chilling. They both had kind of key parts to play in it. So I think it's a good thing that they both went out there and done the business. And like I said before, they were out there with some players that we can link with. And to be honest, none of those players from that little pool of like the Gravenberches, Thuram's, none of them moved me at all, if I'm honest, from what I saw. So if we're looking at it right now, I'm thinking like we talk like dipping 50 million to one of those players. We've got one of those already. We've got one of those in Curtis Jones. So like, it's a good sign. But let's just we'll see if we can keep it up.
Okay, man. Chat to me, man. Do you think he deserves to start?
I wanted to follow on.
No, go on.
Actually. The interesting thing about that is those under 21s have kind of ran into their pre-season, and just for example, Trent came back a week early just to practice on his positioning and a couple of other things, and his speed apparently. So that's an interesting thought to see where he might play, because that could be another midfielder into a packed midfield already, which we say we haven't got any midfielders. And the thing about it is, if Kurt didn't go to the under 21s, he would have probably been with Trent, coming back a week early to get himself really, really ready for the pre-season. And he is going to be a bit part player, because they're all going to get a couple of games in pre-season against whoever teams we're playing, not great teams, but we're going to have a much better pre-season than we did have last season. That's a fact, because Klopp's already learned the fact that he needs to manage the pre-season and not as assistant manager, which is what happened last year. And I think that if Sabolsai and McAllister cook, with the fact that Fabinho has had a good rest and maybe Trent's playing in there, that could be an insane pre-season with them playing, that you're just not going to want to upset the apple cart and throw someone into that mix. But let's be honest, we won the league because we had brilliant squad players. You know, Shaqiri, Origi, Minamino, Oxlade-Chamberlain, they all came in and did a part. They all came in and had really important factors in us winning the league. They really did. And even if you look at us winning Champions League like years ago with Gerrard, we had like some really obscure players coming in, scoring important goals and playing integral parts in that. There's no reason why Kurt Jones and Harvey Elliott can't do that. As long as they're played in the right positions and given some game time, there's no reason why they can't. Like, I know I'd rather have Curtis Jones coming on for the last 30 minutes than James Milner. I'm sorry. But I know I would rather have that in midfield, especially if we need to nick a goal or we need to just keep things tight, you know, see the game off. You know, Kurt Jones, Jordan Henderson coming on as subs. That, for me, that's a good squad. That's a good squad. Yeah, I can live with that. But like just throwing him straight into the deep end again ahead of players that have like won the World Cup, like that just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense for the team as well, and for the fact that what you're showing those new players. Okay, yeah, we just spent 35 million and 50 million on you, or 60 million on you, and then we're going to stick this other guy in front, because he's been at the club and he's a Scouser. Like I don't see that. Like I can see him being a really good squad player, and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being a squad player for Liverpool? Nothing.
Nothing. There's nothing at all. We need them. Yeah, I mean every squad needs. I think, and just before you go 12, I think even just on what you're saying there in regards to what's wrong with being a squad player, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a squad player. I think, of course, unfortunately, we look at it because we're up against Manchester City. So when you look at their squad players to our squad players, there's obviously a massive disparity in terms of the quality. So I can't remember who mentioned it before about, I think it was Quasi, when you said about, you know, Grealish or Foden. That's totally different, you know, than a Mac and a Curtis Jones in terms of Curtis Jones isn't as good as a Grealish or a Foden. You know what I mean? It's just one of those kind of things. Yet, he might be in the future, but right now, I wouldn't consider him to be better than those kind of players. Even McAllister, I'd probably say he's probably level with like a Grealish, potentially, depending on how you kind of see it. So when we're then talking about the squad players, yes, it's fine. You know, every club does need them. But then the problem that you have with Liverpool is that the squad players are... You always notice these squad players at Liverpool, they're not players who are pushing for starts, though. They are genuinely I guess the definition of what squad is, which is you're never ever going to start here. I don't realistically want to use you, but if I need to use you, I'll use you. Ox might be the exception to that, purely because obviously the injury and stuff like that we moved on. But if you're looking at everybody else, the Minaminos, the Origis, the Shaqiris, whoever else you kind of want to throw in that kind of bracket, those guys were never here to actually start. You know, they were never here to really force their way in. Jota, it was even amazing that he was somehow able to wiggle his way, you know, into that first team, you know, kind of setup and give Klopp a real dilemma. And I think with stuff like that, that's where you keep a team always competitive, where you've got players where you don't even know who you're going to play. Of course, you need your staple players in the team. I'm not saying chop and change every single week, but there are some positions and some players that when we're out of form, for example, when Salah goes through his usual 8-game barren spells or whatever every single season, we shouldn't be constantly using him. You know, I see zero benefit, you know, within that, you know, and it kind of hinders us in a way. You know, when other players are going through barren spells, not just one game, but we've now hit 5 games. He's still poor. 6 games, he's still poor. 7 games. Surely, you know, a top team should be able to easily rotate someone of not equal level, but good enough level where you're not bothered if he does start games, kind of thing. And I think that's where the issue that is kind of coming with people and Curtis Jones is, does he really deserve to be in that position where we're calling him a squad option, where we don't mind him starting games or replacing McAllister and stuff like that? But 12, take it away, man. Sorry, I jumped in there.
No. I can understand. I could actually, I believe what I was going to say next might have a little bit of bring some clarity or maybe some type of an answer to your question. And that is, I'm seeing what the chat's writing. I'm seeing what, some of the panelists are saying and what our fan base is saying in general. And I know our fan base was clamoring so much for a Gini Ronaldo style player to be in this. That was one of the major pieces that we were missing, apparently, quote unquote, for so long or for a period of time. That was a noticeable difference in this club. And finding a player like that is not an easy accomplishment. I mean, it's a person that's going to bring, as they say, bring the lunch pail to work and kind of really get involved in some of the down and dirty work. And I think that where we're losing perspective is when you say something like, oh, well, he's not a Jack Grealish or he's not a Phil Foden. First off, those players play a different role than he plays, different position than he plays. So comparing them is not an equal comparison. But when, because you're looking for different attributes to be shown from the play. And not only on top of that, I would even go deeper to say that I believe that Curtis Jones has taken on the task that Klopp put out for him, which was, hey, I need a Gini Wijnaldum on his team. I need someone that's going to go out there and be able to take on and really do that counter press, do the work that isn't really seen as being glamorous and seeing all the goals scored and all the assists and crosses and everything. But you will be seeing the fact that the other players around you will be able to do their jobs, be able to do their work. And that's something that I think is being overlooked because realistically, I got called out again for my Gini relation. And I'll say it again. Look, Jones's passing numbers are almost identical to Gini's in his prime with LFC. Okay. His creative numbers are slightly better than Gini's. Okay. While defensively, he's a far stronger defensive player than Gini. Okay. And I say that with chest. All right. So look, his focus on performing off the ball work has really allotted to a small bit of success that has been gaining momentum. And now that he's gotten the confidence from that success, he's been able to garnish that with the play that you're seeing in these tournaments, with the play that you started to see towards the end of the year, with the play that you're going to hopefully continue to see evolve and grow next season. And if anything, as Reds fans, we should all be applauding that and encouraging that and hopefully wanting to see that.
Can I just jump onto the back of that as well, please? Absolutely brilliant analysis, by the way, 12th man. Again, spot on, mate. The thing about that as well that we need to understand about Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott has played more than Curtis Jones in his career. Curtis Jones hasn't played as much football as Harvey Elliott. Yeah. Harvey Elliott's 2 years younger than him. Okay? Can you imagine how far ahead Curtis Jones would be if he'd have played that amount of games and we hadn't have played Harvey Elliott and we'd have played Curtis Jones in the midfield instead? A whole season in that position would send him through the roof. Honestly, if we'd have played Curtis Jones the whole of last year, we might not have even have signed McAllister. I'm sorry, we might not even have signed him. Yeah. That's how good Curtis Jones can be if he's given a run of games and the time to show how good he can be. And we're all talking about goals and assists. Curtis Jones hasn't been there for goals and assists. None of our midfields are ever been there for goals and assists. They're there to press, win the ball, keep it ticking, and never lose it. Because if you lose it, then you're right at the back, because we play such a high line. Curtis Jones has got that up to a T now, and Klopp can trust him playing that all the time. I just think people need to realise that he hasn't played as much as people think he has.
No,
he's way behind on games than he should be for his age. And I think he'd be perfect as a squad player. I really do. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, K-Max,
No.
just real quick, just to solidify K-Max point. Look, Harvey Elliott played 32 games to Curtis Jones 18. Okay, he played 1,600 plus minutes. I don't know how exactly many, but 1,600 plus minutes to over 1,000 minutes for Curtis Jones. Okay, but yet out of Curtis Jones, you got 3 goals and an assist. Out of Harvey Elliott, you got a goal and 2 assists. Okay, when it comes to passing accuracy, his passing accuracy for Curtis Jones was 91%. Let me repeat that, 91%. Okay, long pass accuracy, 88% on long pass accuracy.
Those numbers are in the top 10 in the world. Those numbers are in the top 10 in the world. Seriously,
yeah.
He has been that high.
I was going to say, not to cut across you, I was going to say, I get the eye test compliments or when everyone says eye test over numbers and blah, blah, blah. But the difference is we all have different eyes, but we all can't have different numbers. That's the one unique thing that we can say. So that's when we're going to have a discussion. Sure, your eyes might have seen something that my eyes didn't, or vice versa. But statistically wise, you can't argue that. You just can't.
What I will say, again, just playing devil's advocate, because I like Jones. I do like Jones. If I had to pick between Jones and Elliott, I would pick Jones, right? Because I think he's a more well-rounded individual in terms of what he can offer you on the pitch. What I will rebuttal in terms of the stats, would those stats be kind of glorified in comparison to Elliott because you're judging it off a small period as opposed to Elliott playing that many games in a different role in the team as opposed to what Jones is like? For example, if you had Sadio Mane and Salah, you can kind of compare the two, give or take. Maybe not exactly, but you can kind of compare them because they're both doing more or less similar roles. Or maybe a few tiny little differences in terms of the way that Salah plays to the way that Mane plays, but you can kind of compare them. As opposed to Jones, I feel, is putting the team to do those numbers. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. We can't get away from that. But he's in the team to do that. Harvey Elliott's not in the team to keep possession. He's not in the team to recycle play. He's not in the team to do any of that. He's kind of just, I feel, in there really for, I actually don't really know, maybe just for the energy or, for the fight or whatever. But Klopp picked him more than he picked Curtis Jones.
He's in the team to do that. Harvey Elliott is in the team to do that because that's what all our midfielders do. It's just.
But if he's in the, but if that is the case, why has Elliott played far more games? This isn't like, for example, I don't know what the numbers 12 said in regards to how many games.
I have no idea.
I just pulled them up now. If you want me, I can.
Okay, cool. So how many? I don't know if you can see it like right this very second. But how many games has Elliott played this season for Liverpool?
So you mean last season? Yeah, last season, 22-23.
Sorry.
Elliott played 32 games last season. Curtis Jones played.
Is that all competitions or just?
That's just.
Is that all competitions?
That's just the Prem.
Okay, cool. So cool. We'll just use the Premier League. So that's just under half of the amount of or just over half. Sorry, in terms of how many Curtis Jones played. What's that? 18, 36. So if we're saying that Harvey Elliott's played 32 times, Jones has only played 18 with, would we say 12 of those coming in the last 12 games effectively?
Right.
Taking out the injury, I know the injury was obviously big, and again, that would have taken however many games that would have taken. So let's say that probably took away maybe about 10 games. I'll give it even that. I'll give it even 10 games. So let's say he played all those 10 games. That still takes him up to about 28 games that he's played in comparison to Elliott's 32 in the Premier League. Harvey Elliott was still the guy that he turned to. Beginning of the season.
I get that.
So that's the bit where I'm just a little bit like, why would he have turned to him if?
Let me say this just honestly. I don't want this to be a Harvey Elliott versus Curtis Jones thing.
No, it's not. No.
I both believe that they've both played exceptionally, and I believe that they are future stars for this club that I hope continue to develop. But for instance, though, passes attempted for Curtis Jones was 658 passes attempted, but he completed 600 of those 658 passes. Okay, whereas in Harvey Elliott had 957 passes attempted, and he completed 793 of them. Okay, so when you're looking at the amount of like passing, when I made that big number with passing accuracy and all that, you know, you're looking at definitely a couple hundred more passes from Elliott, but that's coming from, again, just like as you stated, that's those 14 extra matches that he got to play in the Prem at least. I'm not talking about all comps, just talking about the Premier League.
Yeah,
but that's what you're looking at, you know. But then again, you're looking at, you could go as far as to say, oh well, Curtis Jones only had 14 chances, chances created was 14, whereas in Harvey Elliott had 26. Well, okay, if we're going to use some similar to your logic, I would say, look, I like to go by, when it comes to numbers, I would like to say a good estimate would be to say if he continued on this form of run, that it would far exceed Elliott's numbers if he got to play 32 games, and possibly it would even exceed his passes, his chances created if he got the same number of run. So I know that numbers and everything else is gets into like the little wonky and the nerdy stuff, but I mean realistically, yeah, I understand what you're saying when it comes to he's had a smaller sample size, but he's also, that sample size that we have seen has been chock full of really good performances and chock full of some really exceptional work that I think can continue to go into the next season, hopefully.
But this is what I was going to say. This is the part where you put the onus and the responsibility and the holding him, Curtis, accountable. Because there was a lot of period of time he wasn't injured and Klopp was not playing, right?
Yeah.
You could call Elliott a passion merchant, but Elliott will run through a brick wall for Klopp.
Yeah.
And that's something that we were not seeing with Curtis, with all that skill. And that is the difference between those two. You see what I mean? Yes, Curtis is by far, I think, a step ahead of Elliott. But the thing is, Curtis was there before Elliott showed up. And also, we also have to put in account, if it wasn't for that injury that Elliott suffered, he would have also be going, because when Elliott came in, he was flying. I mean, the Chelsea game, even the Leeds game that he got injured. So this is the part where I don't even think that, numbers could even quantify, where we looking at Elliott and say, bro, what are you going to do, man? You got your little brother getting ahead of you. What are you going to do? This has nothing to do with how many passes, how many dribbles, how many goals you score. What are you going to do to be ahead of Elliott, ahead of Dom, ahead of McAllister, ahead of Thiago, Henderson, Fab, all them boys? Because this has nothing to do with your skill anymore. Because you are in a team, Klopp never said you're on loan, meaning, boy, you are that dude. Now that's where the Mamba mentality kicks in. Because if you don't show it, you're not going to play. I don't care how well you played in the Euros. You have to show it and let the manager sit there and be like, bro. Because I'll give you an example. Fabinho, like I think it was K-Mac who said, his first game, he was horrible. Second game, he was horrible. Eventually, he was doing better. Then Klopp moved him to 6 instead of the 8. And then everybody was like, this is no-brainer. Why did you? Klopp had to come out and apologize that I made a mistake by putting him in the 8 instead of putting him in 6. A game against PSG in Paris, Klopp decided to do the Brexit midfield, and Verratti tore left and right until he brought in Keita and Fabinho, and then the whole thing changed. So this has to be, the player also has to hold himself accountable and can't just sit back and say, I need more playing time. What are you going to do to get those playing times? Because as we all saying, we want a new midfield. A new midfield means competition in the midfield. So Curtis, what are you going to do to be in front of those lists, the front 3?
Can I just jump onto that for a sec?
Ish,
I'm sorry, mate. I'll let you speak in a minute. The thing about Elliott, look, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be digging into anyone. Okay, I'm not into doing that. But I feel like with Klopp, have you ever been at work and there's one of those guys that's just a kiss arse. Yeah.
Don't
He's
call
just
him
a kiss arse, and he gets the better shifts, or he gets a better rota, or he just gets an easier ride because he takes his boss to the pub, or he gives him a Christmas card. You know, a real kiss arse. I feel like Elliot is a kiss arse, and I feel like Curtis Jones just isn't. He just isn't. Like, if you ever watched Liverpool FC, like the YouTube channel, he does all of the training stuff. He does all of the stuff with the kids shows. He does all of the funny stuff. He is a really likable guy who gets on really well with all of the players, and it's really obvious. But I just feel like he's kind of quite timid. And if you watch the interview that he did in the Premier League, I think it was the last interview he did, where he was on Match of the Day and they were talking to him about like him scoring goals and that. He was really, really nervous. Like, he was a really nervous person in front of the camera, like, as in talking about himself. And I feel like that's the side of his shell that he needs to come out of to become great. Like, and I feel like Elliot's probably already done that because he's a bit of a kiss arse, and Klopp's probably got him as his mate, and you know, he probably goes to his office every day with a cup of coffee for him. No, seriously, like, I'm not saying this is like a jokey thing. I genuinely believe that's how you get in front of some people. And Jurgen is probably quite easily bended like that. You know what I mean?
Can I jump in real quick?
Carvalho probably got binned because he wasn't like that.
Can I jump in there? I won't say a kiss ass. I would say he's one of them people that
teacher's pet. Teacher's pet. That's what I meant to say.
Or when you're at the office, you work with those people who always look busy and they're not doing anything, but they always look busy. Maybe that way. But the thing is, Elliot has something that Klopp identify with, and that's the passion. Yeah,
you guys sound like angry workers, by the way.
Right? Klopp is a passionate person. Everything, and Elliot is a nonchalant guy. He's always in the back. But my brother, if you have to go kiss and give the manager a few coffee once a day, go do it so you get into the damn game. Do what you gotta do to play.
Maybe he's learned from him and he started doing that, and that's why he got a game.
Bring him in brand new glasses every single morning. Polish it.
You know what? I also thought Lallana was like that as well. Sorry, I also thought Lallana was like that as well.
Lallana is a teacher's pet. You know, and then, but at the same time, they're likable too, so you can't hate him. I won't call him a kisser.
I mean, look,
a teacher's pet.
Every kind of, I feel like, you know what it is, at every club, you kind of need these types of players anyway, kind of thing, you know. Obviously, it just depends then on their quality level of said players, you know, when it comes down, you know, if Lallana was, you know, a fantastic player kind of thing, I guess we wouldn't even care. And he was a kiss ass the way he is, I guess we wouldn't even really, you know what I mean, we probably wouldn't really even bat an eyelid, you know, in regards to that. So that's why it's funny. It is funny though, because it is true. You do look at some of these kind of players and you think to yourself like, okay, this guy is a little bit of a, you know, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But I think, again, I came back to it there. I don't want to make this show or even just this little segment here about the Jones versus the Elliott. But again, they are two players that you kind of need to compare because of the ages, even though Elliott is obviously younger, but just in terms of they're the two young players, so to speak, you know, within the squad who have had that first team minutes. And it's quite interesting to see, you know, what Klopp or how Klopp kind of utilized both of them up until this point. Obviously now we've changed the formation and stuff like that. You know, we've now got, you know, Curtis Jones kind of playing, you know, in this kind of on the left / attacking. I found this a bit funny as well and a bit weird that his positioning on the pitch, average position anyway for Liverpool this or last season, was on that kind of left wing, as opposed to being in the box, kind of left attacking midfield that everyone obviously keeps talking about. And then when you look at him playing for England, this is his kind of position. This is the kind of position. So this is his heat map for England at the Euros. When kind of similar, obviously we don't play the same, so you know there is going to be, you know, differences. But just in terms of Jones's positioning, you know, for for the team that he's obviously playing for. In the final, this was kind of like the position that he was taking up, you know, in that kind of DM position, you know, deep line playmaker, threading in through balls, you know, trying to break up play and, you know, all of these kind of various different things. And I thought to myself that would be, would I say, sort of similar to what we're seeing at Liverpool. But at Liverpool, it's kind of over there on that left wing, the position that he kind of came through when he was playing under Steven Gerrard in the academy. That's where we all saw him. None of us saw him as a Ginny. Klopp obviously clearly saw him as a Ginny replacement. But I don't think any fan that I've spoken to has ever once kind of mentioned to me, yeah, he's the new Ginny. I never saw it. I saw him as a number 10, or I saw him on that left wing, or you know, kind of, you know, more of an actual midfielder. And that part in itself, again, as I showed there with England, he's then dropping even further deeper, you know, on the pitch. Do we see that as a role? Ish, chat to me, man. Like, do you see that as something that we may see in the future, or maybe?
I don't know. I think we have to take the under 21 thing with a little pinch of salt. Like I said, he was like head and shoulders above everyone else. So I think when you're that much better than everyone else on the pitch, you kind of want to get them on the ball as much as possible. Similarly to when Pep Linders was like talking about when he moved Trent into midfield in the academy, he was like, he was just the best player on the pitch. So I wanted to get him into a position where I could get him on the ball. Could he do that in the Premier League against like your De Bruyne's and those kinds of players, or even like your Bruno Fernandez's? That's who he would be up against if he was playing in those deeper roles. I don't know if he's quite there yet, but physically and in terms of like his stature on the pitch and stuff. So I could he play there eventually? Yeah. Could he play there maybe in the Europa League this season or in the cup games? I wouldn't mind it. But if you were telling me Curtis is going to start as well, one of the sixes in the system, I'd be a bit concerned in the Prem anyway. But it's definitely something he could do. What I liked about him is that he was kind of showing a bit more of a different side to the passing game as well. I think for Liverpool, you mainly see him doing short passes, keeping it kind of ticking, or playing those through balls in the final third. But I think obviously there's that clip that went viral where he split I can't remember who they were playing, but he one pass split through like 4 or 5 guys from deep. So I think he's got that to his game, but I don't know if I want to see it in the Prem just yet. I don't know if I want to see it in the Prem just yet. I think there's levels to go. But if we're looking at the top DMs in the Prem, you're looking like guys like Rodri, Casemiro. Like, I don't know if I can put Curtis in those categories just yet. But it was something. It was good. It was nice to see. It was nice to see that he's had.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't think he's there. I don't think he's quite there yet.
Can I add a quote though by Curtis just to give some perspective, because we were talking about earlier. Quasi brought up about his mindset and about what he wants to believe as going forward, if he's going to be able to realistically, challenge and really bring out the best in his abilities versus his teammates and everything such. The quote was,
guys continue. I'm just going to hop out and hop back.
Okay, yeah. The quote was, when asked if bringing in new talent or asked about the things that are going on with the club in general, he says, it doesn't faze me. He insisted, I don't care who we sign. I'm a confident lad. I still back myself to succeed here. And of course I do. Of course basically he's saying, of course I think that I belong. I deserve to be here. I belong here. I'm going to make a difference here. And I think that, like, when you have a player that says those things, not everyone can say those things with chest. Not everyone can say those things with chest. And to be able to say that shows that, like, yeah, you're putting yourself out there now to be judged by that comment, to be judged by that. And that's not an easy accomplishment, or that's not an easy thing to do when it comes to really putting yourself out there, because often, you might want to just kind of like, enjoy everyone else getting the limelight and you just going about your business and collecting that check possibly, but he's not that player. So
I think he can afford to talk like that. I think K-Mac said it earlier on, like, I can't think of too many games where Curtis have been like, you've stunk up the place, like get him off the pitch kind of thing, where there's been a few Liverpool players, both past and present, especially midfielders, where you could say there's been times that it's just been like, just get this guy off the pitch. I don't care if I have to play with 10 men. This guy's just pissing me off so much right now. I don't think it's ever been that with Curtis. It's more just been he's injured again. Curtis' first training game back, he's got injured again. It's just like we can't have too many of these players in our squad. I think it was always, for me anyway, it was that kind of thought as opposed to this guy's dead. I can't see his quality. So I think from that point of view, like he's just got that's the main thing I want from Curtis this season. If he can have an injury-free season, I don't really doubt what he can do in terms of on the pitch. But it's just my main concern is, can we rely on this guy for not even 38 games? Give us 28 games. Give us 30 games a season where you're fit and you're ready to go. That's the main thing for me. Everything else, I think, will kind of just fall into place. But I just need to see that availability. What you say, Mons?
I mean,
Big amounts in the damn building, bro.
yeah, big amounts. The thing, like I said, the thing with Curtis, we all agree he got talent. It's in here. He backs himself. He's a confident dude. Like, look at his body. Nothing fades. But the thing is, he's in a team right now that it's great. You know, even look how much we get when we see Virgil act nonchalant or Trent act nonchalant. Right? We got 3 of them now. It's very annoying to deal with people like that because you have to understand it. And if you don't, you think they're doing nothing. Right? So with him, like I said, he has to, with the code that he did, he has put himself on the wall and said, then now show us. That's what we need to do. Show us. Preseason training, whatever, show us. And then we will see where we go from here. But I think I see good things in his future. But his mindset is the one that I get worried because I've always said, even in my previous videos, I always concerned with his development because I felt like Klopp was babying him too much and he was way too laid back, you know. But the guy has talent. Personally, I thought he was going to be the next Liverpool captain. That's what I thought.
Curtis Jones.
Curtis, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought because
Yeah.
he has that. You could tell he has it in him. It's just, come on, man. Do I need to slap you before he comes out or what? You know what I mean? That type of nonchalant but great.
He was the captain of the academy team though.
Yeah, when Trent was there, Trent was you know. So we see, but he will have to fight like hell because the talent that have come in, you know, you got Henderson and Fab, who they're probably gonna battle in that 6th role. He has to battle with Thiago McAllister and Bachete. And the cool thing with Bachete, he could go both sides. So if I'm not getting game on this side, I'm gonna go to the game on that side. Now with Elliott, as I said before, his is the final third. Either he's gonna create a sick pass or he's gonna score. The fancy tricks, I don't really care much about. You know, you dribble somebody and you call him back and dribble them again. Yeah, he needs to stop that. Just put the ball in the back of the net. You do that a couple of times, now McAllister has to think twice.
Can I just touch on that before you hand over to Mons? Is that all right?
Yeah.
That heat map was really, really interesting that you brought up. Because basically, that looks like Curtis.
Which one? The Liverpool or the England one?
The Liverpool one last season. Because that just looks like Curtis just took on some responsibility and went, you know what? We need to do more. I need to get more involved in the game. Like me just dropping back and covering in midfield just isn't going to cut it. Like, we need to create, we need to make chances, we need to be more progressive. And he's literally just took that on himself and obviously created chances, scored goals, assists, and kind of impacted the game more, which is when he's been played before, he probably hasn't had that much of an impact in the game, which is why we probably haven't spoke about him. But he's probably still been doing everything what Klopp wants him to do, is in keeping hold of the ball, giving the passes to the right people, but he just hasn't been that more influential, creative force, which we know he is. And the thing about it as well, what we're not talking about is Klopp's got previous now. Like, he's took a left-sided creative player in Curtis Jones and put him into midfield. What other players has he done this with? He's done this with Elliott from the right. So he's got a right-sided midfielder who's creative, and put him into midfield. Like, it's going to take time to get these players to work. So how many years are you waiting on Elliot to come into the same kind of form Curtis is going to come into? Like, Klopp's got previous doing this. So, we can sit here and blame Curtis, but, maybe Curtis should have stayed on the left. Can you imagine what he might have been able to do there?
Listen,
Food for thought.
I'm not gonna. I try to with some of these shows. I do try to stay away from Klopp as much as humanly possible. I don't want to focus solely on him, because if I can stick with the players, then I'll stick with the players. Mons, thank you obviously for waiting, and big up your damn self. Thank you for obviously joining this evening. Obviously, you already know the vibes. We've been speaking for the last hour about Curtis Jones, his kind of form in the back end of last season, heading into the Euros, and then taking a little look towards the future and the beginning of next season. How are you kind of looking at this whole Curtis Jones situation? Firstly, I'll ask you this though. Do you think, because obviously you're like myself, we're both on social media, we're both on Twitter, we see everything. Do you think it's hyped up in terms of Jones at this moment, or are people just really underrating exactly what he's doing?
It's a bit of both. You know what I'm saying? I think if this was any rival player, we'd be saying he's played 10 games. Why, man? What's all the fuss about? He's been crap for 2 years. That's exactly what we'd be saying if we were rival fans. Like it or not. But because he's our player, we're gonna home in on the positives just a little bit more, which is understandable because it's what we've wanted to see from. This is what we wanted to see from Curtis 2 years ago. What we're seeing now is what we wanted to see 2 years ago. But better late than never. Every player peaks differently. The team, we can say he's been crap for 2 years, but Liverpool have been class over the last 3 years, bar one season. So it's like, was he ever even Curtis when he's like, let's just take in Curtis for those 10 games. Even if he was playing at that level, would he have got into that midfield? Gini, Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho in their pomp? No chance. Is he getting into the Thiago Fab, Henderson midfield, even when Henderson still had legs? No. He's not getting to any combination of midfield we've ever had. Shaqiri was even ahead of him. And Klopp didn't fancy Shaqiri as much as we saw the talent Shaqiri possessed. They say he has a better, like, ask anyone in the Liverpool camp, they say he's got a better left foot than Salah. That says a lot.
I can believe that. I can believe it.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
So, like, I just feel like I just feel like when it comes to Curtis, we have to be very careful and just sort of monitor his progress and not be too critical over him right now and kind of just get what we can take, because if he goes back to the level that he's been showing over the last few years, then I'm afraid he's got to go. However, if he continues this form and this upward trajectory, there's absolutely a place in this team. And believe it or not, there's even a place for him to start, because what I like to see from my youth players is the fact that they want to push. Whether Thiago, don't care. McAllister, don't care. I believe I'm good enough. In his head, he probably thinks I'm good enough to play left centre midfield. In his head. You know what I'm saying? As a consumer, as a fan, we're going to be like, okay, you're nowhere near as good as Thiago. McAllister just come in for money as a new signing. You're not better than either of them. But in his head, he probably thinks he is. And that's what I want from my players, because at the end of the day, I don't think there was anyone else in our midfield throughout the whole season who would lose the ball or see a turnover and win the ball back as quick as Curtis. Yeah. Like, everyone's talking about on the ball, he's been a bit more decisive. He's not dwelling on the ball as much. For me, the thing that's impressed me the most about him is how quickly he's won the ball back every single time he's lost it. That's what I was so like, this is the legs we've been missing. Like, this is crazy. When Thiago loses the ball, he's not winning the ball back like that. If McAllister loses the ball, he's not winning the ball back like that. No one is winning the ball back as fast as Curtis Jones is in our midfield. So that's why, for me, I don't think we're exaggerating too much on his progress, even though it's been 10 games, because he's showing us something that no one else in our midfield has, and that's ball recovery, winning the ball back. And let's be honest, if we're gonna give Jurgen Klopp any credit, it's the fact that winning the ball high up is the main cog. It's the main artifact for Jurgen Klopp's system to work is winning the ball back really, really quickly. Because Jurgen Klopp said it himself, and I quote this: winning the ball back high up and being able to play one pass into the attack, into the opposition box is easier and more effective than any 10 that you could ever play with. That is why Klopp does not play with 10s. That's why Carvalho has not worked out. That's why he doesn't play Shaqiri. That's why he converted Firmino from a 10 to a striker. You know what I'm saying? And this, you guys probably know this already. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? So if we can win the ball high up and go back to feeding the strikers without having to sort of knock the ball around our back line and wait for Virgil to ping a 70-yarder to Salah, then that's the Liverpool of old. And if Curtis is the best at recovering the ball high up, by all means, challenge him to start. He's there to. I would not be surprised and I would not complain if he's starting. Yes, when you're playing against Rodri, KDB, do you want to see Curtis Jones or do you want to see Thiago? Absolutely, you want to see Thiago. But in terms of, do we want to progress with the system or do we want to progress with an individual? That is ultimately the decision that we have to make as a fan, and it's the decision that Klopp has to make. I'd rather see Thiago over Curtis Jones, but I'd also rather see Liverpool win rather than see Thiago drop his shoulder 100 times. So, you know what I'm saying? It's not always about aesthetics. It's not always about aesthetics, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like Togo's going to play 90 minute after 90 minute after 90 minute after 90 minute. Like, you can bring him in to games where you feel like the high press is needed and to win the ball back. If you feel like we need to control a game, bring in Thiago. If you feel like you need someone who's a bit of both, we use McAllister. It's the perfect headache to have, in my opinion. So, I spoke for way too long, but yeah, that's my...
No. Obviously, you was just trying to catch up. Quick question before I even kind of dive into what you just said. Did you win or lose today?
What do you mean? Oh, because I come back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we won. Yeah, we won.
Cool. No, I'm just checking, man. I don't really want losers on the show, but yeah, no. All jokes aside, when I'm listening to what you're saying, the thing is, I agree with what you're saying. Ultimately, you're right. You said it there. Shaqiri was ahead of him, at that period of time, and heck, Klopp didn't even really fuck with Shaqiri. Carvalho hasn't worked out. We don't sign 10s because we don't really use 10s within this team. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, cool. But when Curtis Jones was coming through, we probably would have called him a left winger / a number 10. That's what he was doing, obviously, for the academy. I know the academy is obviously different than the first team, but ultimately I'm just looking at what he was good at and where he was playing when he was obviously coming through. Now that he's 22, I think, he's 22 years of age now. Now that he's finally in this last month, 2 months, he's finally got himself into this position where we've seen him run a game, we see what he can do. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, so you mean it took from, I think he made his debut at 18? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say he was 18. So in that 4-year period, it took for him to go from that, what we saw in the academy, to what we're seeing today. So who am I looking at in this situation? Obviously, we take injuries into account. That's obviously going to play a part. But is it a case of, well, Jones didn't really do enough? Because you mentioned the Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson midfield and no one getting in there. I'm not hearing any rotation players. You mentioned the Gini, the Fabinho, and Henderson midfield. I'm not hearing no rotation players. Like, I'm not hearing anything. Now, is that a Klopp issue? Well, a used to be Klopp issue? Is that because Curtis Jones just wasn't really good enough at that time to be able to even force that kind of issue? Like, where am I looking? Because as I mentioned, it's 4 years now. We're not talking about a guy who just turned 18. We're not talking about Bajcetic. Yeah. Bajcetic now, we're already looking at him and saying, well, damn, he can already kind of find his way in the team, really and truly. If someone gets injured in that DM position, boom, we already can find. We're kind of debating, should Jones play?
I think that's because the bar's on the floor, though. I rate Bajcetic. I rate him. Stefan is a
okay. So I was just about to get onto that point right there. The bar's on the floor. So are we judging Curtis by this bar being on the floor? Because before we had the Thiagos, the Fabinhos, the Caters, the Henderson in his prime, like the Gini Wijnaldum, we had that midfield. Even when he was fit. So where are we judging Sorry, go on now.
I wouldn't say the bar's on the. I wouldn't say the bar is. The bar is on the floor. If you're looking at last season as a collective, yeah, the bar's on the floor. But then if you're looking at the last 12 games where we won, the last 11 games that we won 9 of them and drew 2 of them, that for me, I can't look like I have to look at the Curtis Jones, the length of Curtis, if that makes sense. And I feel like, yeah, the bar is lower than what we'd want for Liverpool midfield. However, Curtis, for me, the level he played at is enough. It's enough. You're not breaking down the door, but it's enough. If I put it this way, if I see Curtis start, I'm not throwing my toys out the pram. If I saw Curtis start this time last season, I'm throwing my toys out the pram. That shows, and again, you could say, well, but months, last season we went for a quad. This season the bar's in the bin. But at the same time, we have to, we talk so much about the eye test, and you can see what he's doing is of the standard of Liverpool Football Club at the moment. He's not been doing this long enough for us to call him a certified Liverpool standard baller. But what I've seen, for me, I think the current trajectory, he's 100% on that road, in my opinion. He's 100% on that road. And he's even getting the plaudits from the rival fans. Rival fans used to say, we've got Saka, we've got Garnacho, and you're just stuck with Curtis. That's the banter that used to fly around. I'm not hearing that anymore. I'm not hearing that no more. And that's all that is from that's a 10-game stint. From a 10-game stint. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think for Curtis, it was even 13 to 15. It's just that there was a point, because I'm pretty sure he came in against Chelsea and then he's played for the rest of the season. So
no, he didn't even make. That was the thing. He didn't even make that Chelsea squad. It was literally the next game. Yeah, literally the next game. Then he just made that run.
Did he not start versus Chelsea? I might have to fact check it. But yeah, I thought he started around. But anyway, 13 to 15 games. He was really, really good. Yes, best out of a bad bunch. But all we need is players to fit Klopp's system. And if he's one of those guys, and if he fits the bill, then he's going to be more useful than a guy like a Keita who we got rid of, an Ox who we got rid of. Fabinho, who I think, in my opinion, is surplus to requirements right now. Klopp's going to give him another chance. I think he's done. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm very positive about Curtis Jones. Even in the under-21s, they say, oh, yeah, it's under-21s. Bro, he was a level above everyone. He's a level above most people. Like Levi Colwill, a level above these guys. So, who do we see? Gabri Vega, who everyone's screaming over, 40 mil. Curtis looked better than him. Vega didn't even start. Allow me. Miss me with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Curtis is the second coming of Jesus. Too much Esco in his hair. But listen, trust me, man.
Can I just say one thing on top of what you said, G, about him being around for since he was 18? Why hasn't he gone on loan? Why has Klopp kept him around? Why has he kept him in the team? Why has he had him on the bench? You have to ask that question. That's not Curtis Jones' fault.
That is what I'm effectively asking.
He's a training ground baller.
That's not his fault.
Effectively, he's a training ground baller. Definitely is. Like anyone who's played ball, you look at Curtis Jones and goes, he rips man in training. In training, this guy looks cold. This guy, like on Ndombele type play, that type beat. These men look cold in training, but sometimes it's different when it translates to the pitch.
I mean, we got to listen to what K-Mac just said. Klopp, there's 3 players Klopp have said, I want them to be right beside me.
I'm trying to not use that name as much during these streams.
I understand, but
in the summer holiday.
Like I said, I did put the responsibility on Curtis and for him to do something for the manager to see him, right? But there's been 3 players that Klopp have said, I want them beside me so that I groom him myself. It was Brewster, Curtis, and Elliot. And they are not jumping as they're supposed to, especially when you are dealing with a manager as Klopp. Because this is the guy that basically created Gundogan and Götze and all these guys, right? So something is either the manager have changed his philosophy from the Dortmund days to the Liverpool days, because Bajcetic shows up and he plays exactly like Jim with a little bit flair, right? He runs, he's up and down, he's fearless. Those are the type that he likes. To me, it seems like Klopp is missing Coutinho. That's the player he's looking for because that position, we said he doesn't use number 10s. Coutinho was a number 10, but he was able to play a number 8 very, very well. So it's either he's looking for that type of player and he wants to turn Curtis into a Coutinho, or we need to be asking our manager because we all know Curtis. We have talked about his skill. We talked about his mentality. We all understand that he needs to do more to be invisible if he has to bring coffee to the manager every day. But right now, we need to look at the manager right now. What do you want? Let's just put the onus on the club a little bit. What do he want? I mean, you asked the question about where should he play, right? You asked the question about where should Curtis play, right? What does the manager want? Because Curtis is not be able to play a position if he doesn't know what the manager wants.
I think that's a good segue. JJ, big up your damn self, obviously, for jumping in this evening. Obviously, your favorite manager of your time supporting Liverpool. Chat to us, man. Like Curtis Jones, everything really. Obviously, you know, if you've been, I don't know if you've been tuning in on stuff like that, just before, obviously, you know, just been rapping about, you know, Jones in terms of his form, back end of the season, heading into the Euros. Obviously, it's been really, really good. Everyone's talking about it. I'll ask you the same question I asked Mons. Is it hype or is it, you know, is he generally underrated by not just our fan base, but everyone in a general sense kind of thing, you know? And are we seeing the real Curtis Jones? And is this the Jones that we're going to start seeing, you know, from here on out, effectively?
I think it is, and purely down to the fact that you can only build confidence in your ability as a player if you play games. So I always look at the example of Arsenal. The likes of Emil Smith-Rowe when they're raving about him, Saka when he came through, Martinelli even. The opportunity they had was that Arsenal were down in the dumps, right? Down in the dumps. Things were terrible. They had the freedom, I guess, and the license to say, you know what, Lacazette, you're getting dropped. Aubameyang, you're getting dropped. Xhaka, you're not playing. All of these type of madness before last season, a couple seasons ago, and then they were allowed to just play their game. If they done well, they done well. If they weren't, it doesn't matter because that's. Do you know what I mean? I think it was Ljungberg at the time just made the decision like, yeah, these youngsters are playing. It was Ljungberg. Yeah, these youngsters are playing. When you had the Valentinos on, do you know what I mean, in the training, do you know what I mean, on the pitch. Yeah, he was just like, look, these youngsters, they're just playing. This is what we're going with, right? When that went and happened, these guys then gained the confidence of the manager, gained the confidence of the fans, and they gained confidence within themselves to go and say, you know what, I can go and play and I can do this. With Curtis Jones, he's made his debut in the 4 years ago. He's never really been given the chance to go and just do well. Anytime he had a good game, you talk about Brentford, I believe it was it Southampton, where he went and scored 2 goals or scored a goal. Got taken off. Brentford, yeah, got taken off in that game. We didn't see him until the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? He comes on and he's asked to go and he's been asked to do mad roles. I mean, he's played in the defensive midfield before. He's asked to do the Gini Wijnaldum role when that was never his position. And even if he had a decent game, because he wasn't doing what he did in the academy, we didn't rate it. But then Klopp didn't suggest to us that he's trusting Jones in what he's doing in that game, because what would happen? Henderson would come back, or Thiago would be fit, or there'll be a sign that Naby Keita is available and he'd get dropped. He'd be the first one to get dropped. So there was never that confidence that, yeah, Curtis Jones, we trust you to be that guy. Now, what you see when people play under 21 football, as an example, especially now when he's one of the senior ones, is that you're playing every game. So when you're playing every game, you see them being able to go and perform better. Morgan Gibbs-White, as an example, before he moved to Nottingham Forest, would anyone be here sitting, oh, you know what? Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good player. He's technical.
He was doing certain things that no one else was doing.
No, but he weren't playing though. Like, even if he done certain things, he weren't playing. That's like Jones did certain things in certain games where you're like, rah, you could get a few clips of him, like how he dropped, I think it was against Arsenal, when he was dropping the shoulder against man playing deep. Do you know what I mean? Driving with the ball. Yeah, we could get loads of clips, but because we're Liverpool fans, we're scrutinizing that. When Wolves got rid of him, no one, I can guarantee you, Wolves fans weren't screaming about that. They were like, 40 million, safe, have him. What's happened? He's played for Nottingham Forest because he can play games now. Now he knows he's got the confidence of Steve Cooper. He's like, if I pull out a 4 out of 10, but 2 7 out of 10s before that, I'm going to play the next game. Whereas at Liverpool, he didn't have that license. Now we're seeing is that, yeah, he might have been the best of a bad bunch towards the end of the last season. But that's what you need, innit? It's like Trent, innit? When Trent was coming through, it's not like our right back was pulling up any trees for him to go and emerge through. It's not like we had Dani Alves there and we said, you know what? We're gonna sack Dani Alves off to bring Trent through. Trent only emerged at right back because the right back was injured and he weren't really pulling up any trees. If he was, we would have never got rid of Klein. So, and arguably, to get into Liverpool's midfield is probably the hardest thing to do because it just never rotated. It never rotated. You knew it was Gini Wijnaldum, Fabinho, and Henderson when everyone was fit. No matter what, we signed Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain, and they still couldn't get into the side. Do you know what I mean? Up until Gini Wijnaldum left. So for me, it's just about giving him confidence. Now, look, this doesn't mean that he's going to be able to go and perform like he did in the Euros every single game after that. Like, do you know what I mean? I think it's silly to go and expect that. But the Liverpool have to make a decision. Do you trust in this guy? And are you going to put your eggs in this basket and be like, yeah, give you the game time no matter what, and we see where we end up at the end of the season? Or are you going to go and try give him this bit part role? If you're going to do that again, you might as well get rid of him. You might as well use this opportunity now when he's up this price just to go and get rid of him, because you're essentially going to block his growth, and we're going to be sitting there at the end of the season again saying, look, he's not good enough for Liverpool. Look, he's 23 now and he can't even get into the side. If that's the case, get rid of him. Now you've got to make a decision. Is he the guy you want to go with, or is he not?
Facts.
I knew you was a CJ fan, to be honest. I knew that. A bit too much, but you know.
Do you know what it is, though? You know what it is, though, G? I look at him, right? And you know, you just look at, if you play football, you just look at someone, he's a baller, innit? You just know, okay, he can play football.
Yeah.
And over some of the players that have played in our team, regardless whether you're talking about system or not, he's one of the better ballers in our team. He's one of the better ballers. If you told him, if you had like a football like skills test and you said, yeah, hit this ball on the crossbar 5 times and then hit this man with a daisy cutter, or then try, who dubs this guy up on a 1v1, he'd probably be one of the top 5, 6 at the club. He probably would be. But he's not getting the opportunity. Now, you look at Harvey Elliott as an example. Got loads of opportunities.
Why is that? Why is that? That's what I was asking everyone before. Why is one player? Because we're all. You know what? I'm gonna keep it to football. I'm gonna keep it to football because I don't know what these guys are doing behind closed doors. But the reality is, we're looking at 2 players, and I'm pretty sure everyone here on this panel would all say, if you had to pick between the 2, you'd pick Jones over Elliott. So why is it that the manager has gone the other way up until these last, obviously, 10 games?
Because before Elliott,
thing is for Klopp, like being a baller, which we all agree Curtis is a baller. Like Jerry said, he's one of the top 5 out of club. But I feel like for Klopp, being a baller is maybe the 3rd or 4th thing he looks for when he's putting a team together. He's looking for, can you press? Do you play with intensity? Are you gonna carry out my instructions? He doesn't really like someone who's gonna be a maverick. We spoke on Shaqiri earlier. Shaqiri used to do his own thing on the pitch. Remember the game? I think he bagged the brace against Southampton. I want to say Klopp would still rinse him after the game, saying you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Imagine you just bag the brace and the manager's telling you didn't press in this half space or you didn't track back one certain way. Like, come on, man.
I start looking at him on the side eye.
Yeah, we already know
Shaqiri after that Man United game when he scored those 2 goals.
Exactly. So it's like, we know for Klopp being technically good is not enough. Whether that's right or wrong, it's not enough. But if we're talking in terms of technique, I'd say if we're putting a 5-a-side team together for Liverpool squad, Curtis is in the 100%. Curtis is 100% in there.
I think, yeah. You see with Curtis Jones, he seems, when you just get a vibe off a player just through interviews and how he behaves, just on the bench and stuff. He seems like the type of person. He's a bit of a maverick's the right word, but I'm trying to find a different word to describe it. He looks like the type of person. He's not really going to go and take any like if Klopp says to him, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this," he'll probably be like, "But why am I doing that for? Why am I doing that? Boss, why am I doing that?" And I could see many times where Klopp's just said, "All right, you're on the bench for this game," because of the fact he's got that little bit in him where he's like, I'm going to go against what you're doing. That kind of, and these players have that a lot. talks of like Maddison's got an attitude problem. Someone tried to say Soberslai's got an attitude problem at times. These players that have
has he now?
this is what I'm hearing. That Soberslai, you know, he does like to go and throw his arms up at players and the manager. So I'm saying when you have these types of players, is that they don't fit into a specific box, but when you go and play to their strengths, they're able to go and express themselves. And I think, especially in the England setup, he was able to go and do what he wanted. You saw it was like a double pivot of him and Angel Gomez, but they would rotate and who comes deep, who goes this. He can play, do you know what I mean, a first-time passing behind and not get a bollocking from Klopp saying, why have you not played it to Virgil to play the switch to Salah? Because the system's so rigid. So if you don't fit into what he's trying to do, you're not going to go and play. And when Curtis Jones tries to do that, and we've seen games when he's tried to do that, you look at the stats and he's like, oh yeah, the stats are decent, but then he's not doing what he's good at. So then us as fans, we're looking at it and we're like, he's not good enough. See, look, he used to do this in the academy and now he's just playing sideways passes and he's not doing this. He's not trying to beat his man, when he would beat his man if he had the license to go and do it. These are all instructions from the manager, isn't it? It's like with the whole Diaz situation. When Diaz came in and Klopp told him, yeah, look, we ain't got time to explain our system to you. When you get the ball, just do your thing and we'll just react. He was at his best. Beginning of last season, when we're losing games and he's like, I'm just going to do whatever. He's at his best. He's scoring screamers outside the box. He's ripping guys and all that. He's able to do that. But when he came in and he was part of that system at the beginning of the season, when we're trying to win these games and starting games off, he didn't look nowhere near as effective. And now we're judging, but he's not like Mane, but maybe we need to play Jota there. Maybe he needs to be on the bench because him and Robertson don't know what they're doing and it don't work. It's like, some of these players, you have to allow them to play their game essentially, but that don't fit what Klopp's tried to do so far. So,
what I say to that,
I want to say something.
I'll go in a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I literally got to go in a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, what I say to that though is that I think you're right on what you're saying, Jerry. I just think that if Klopp has been successful when everyone is following his instructions to a T, then I can understand why anyone who comes in, or Curtis Jones, for example, he kind of goes, wait, hold on a minute, stop what you're doing. I don't need you to be 100% expressing yourself. The whole Maverick thing, I'm not with it. Because realistically, like, I've won everything here. You guys ain't won a Prem for how long? I've come and done it. So you guys are going to listen to what I'm saying. And if you can't do it, off your pot. If we didn't have a manager who did that, I think we, as a fan base, we'd be complaining about the individuality of certain players costing us. So I believe that, I think certain players like Curtis Jones need to be freed. And even the likes of Naby Keita, when he first came into Liverpool, he should have been allowed to do his step overs. He should have been allowed to drop his shoulder a lot more. But ideally, if the blueprint works, when the right pieces are in place, telling a guy like Curtis to
I hear it. The thing is,
I hear it.
I hear it. The problem is,
I was just going to say that's why Curtis is playing now. Curtis isn't playing game in, game out because he's doing what we all know Curtis can do technically. Curtis is winning the ball back within 5 seconds. He's winning the ball back faster than anyone. He's covering the most ground. Look at his heat map. That's why he's playing. He's not playing because we know he's like, he can.
I agree. The thing is that then I look at the profile of player that we've been signing, right? Thiago, Carvalho, Elliott bringing him through, using Curtis Jones. That's so far away from what we're talking about. We're like the midfield that went and run him, or the players that have gone and won him stuff. You can see they're all just like narrow-headed, kind of. I'm following this machine and this. Do you know what I mean? Klopp says jump, and we're saying how high, and we're all doing it in unison, and we're moving like that. He's gone and signed players now that go against that. Luis Diaz doesn't fit that role. Darwin Núñez doesn't fit that role. Carvalho didn't fit that role. Elliott doesn't really fit that role when he's at his best. He doesn't. He's another player that likes to be free, pop up in the middle, pop up on the right. He's not like a touchline winger like a Salah, or he's not going to be able to go and do that. He's not that type of player. Curtis Jones, another one as well. And this is I don't understand. Like Soberslai, even these players don't seem like they're these types of players. So I don't know what the managers do in that regard. Then
I'd even say Naby Keita. I'd even say Wijnaldum per se. But again, but Klopp. Klopp is not a guy. I don't think he always signs the guy who's picture perfect for the system. He'll see you and go, "Oh, you're a baller, But if I make you run and I make you win, and your ball retention is just as good on top of your ability, then we can use your ability sparingly, and I can use my system optimally. That's it. I think that's his, because obviously, because it's not just now when you're bringing in the Carvalhos. As we said, Cater wasn't one of those guys. Wijnaldum was a 10, wasn't one of those guys. Like Coutinho was playing 10 / left wing, dropped him back into the 8. But Coutinho was just so good that he was just
when those shots from outside the box come off and Klopp don't like it, he's not going to say anything in it if they're going in every time. Do you know what I mean?
You can't say anything. Man, Coutinho was probably the only exception because he was just that good in it. Like, what can you say, kind of thing. But even though when Klopp was there though, and Coutinho was cutting in and doing his thing, he was still losing games and coming fourth. And that's probably another example where Klopp's going, well, we've just had the best Maverick in the league. Bar maybe Alexis Sanchez, probably better than 17, 18 Coutinho, probably better than Alexis Sanchez. Like, or maybe, I don't know, innit? Like, wherever you want to say.
It's definitely a good argument to have. It's definitely a good argument.
Like, Coutinho's one of the best players in the league, and Klopp's looking at going, damn, Winston, damn.
But if we hadn't got rid of Coutinho, we wouldn't have been able to get the players that were in the league.
Yeah, but Coutinho's probably one of the main reasons Klopp's gone out. This Maverick thing ain't it, man. This ain't it. Like Coutinho, it don't get much better than him. So let's get some runners. Let's see if that works. You know what I'm saying? Sign Salah, get some runners, and then what happened? You know what I'm saying? So listen, I do have to shoot. Apologies, I was late. I missed my train.
No.
An hour out here. So
big up your damn self, obviously, for joining in, guys. Make sure you head over to the Big Six Bants. As he said, he is live at 11 p.m. So make sure you head on over there once we have finished. Please. Bro, give me a shout, man, and I should be in.
Yeah, ping us on Insta.
Subscribe, man.
Well, I was gonna say, Mount kind of took some of what I was gonna say. The thing is, Klopp is getting these players that we feel like he doesn't fit his system, and he's keeping the players that doesn't fit his system. Jones. So, what? The question is, do I want to put pressure on Klopp or do I want to put pressure on Curtis? Because there's a lot of questions that have not been answered. Some players you could change it. I mean, as Wenger did with Nasri. Nasri was a dribbling flair type of player. He comes to Arsenal, he becomes a great player. But the thing with the Klopp and his system, Pep does the same thing. I don't know if you guys heard the interview where Henry said Pep told him, stay one space. I don't care what happened on this space, stay on one space.
Big up, Ish, man. Love for jumping in, bro.
Yeah.
Big up, Ish.
He moved from one space, go score a goal, and Pep was asking, what did you do? What are you doing? I told you to stay. It's about just score. I don't care what you did. I said, stay right here. So those rigid system, when it works, it works. But I agree with what Jerry's saying. Diaz, I said it in the end show numerous times. I said he scored goals when he goes AWOL. Against Spurs, that goal he scored, it was him doing something from somewhere. Against Crystal Palace before he got injured, in the Arsenal game. Same thing. So maybe the manager needs to be a little bit, loose, because he did it at Dortmund. That's what I always get frustrated. At Dortmund, he gave them the freedom to do certain things. Götze, that's why he loved Götze so much. And Götze wasn't that running around player who Mane was. But luckily, we brought Mane in, and he did what he did. So in terms of bringing it back to Curtis needs to maybe have a sit down with the manager, and the manager really likes it. So Curtis needs to have a sit down with the manager, figure out what do you want, and then Curtis have to figure a way to do it because the skill is there. But you can't just ask Curtis to run up and down because his body might not even be able to take it. That's the reason why he gets injured all the time.
Can I just touch on two things before I shoot for a bit?
You think I'm going to wrap up?
I just want to touch on what Jerry said as well, because I think that's really interesting, like about the whole evolution of Curtis. And and if you think about it, just comparison these two players, would Curtis Jones be a Foden if he'd have been under a Pep?
Probably.
I think so.
Is that the same type of player? Has he got the same kind of skill set? Is he a generational talent that came through at the age of 18? And if he'd have been managed the way Pep has managed Foden, then
I think Pep would have
I think
developed him a lot better than Jones would have been. How Jones been developed under Klopp. I think Pep would have developed him a lot better.
I think
skill set.
He'd been better.
Yeah, I think if Jones, if Jones was in the Arsenal team at the same time Saka was and Foden was, I think if Jones just played more games, I think we'd see a better player, regardless of. And I think if he was in the Arsenal team, I think he'd be compete. Like I honestly feel before they got Odegaard, if he was there, he was able to go and play games, unless he was like just not that good after playing a season or so. I think he'll be playing in that midfield. I think he would. I mean, Emil Smith-Rowe, they want to go and keep him around, but Curtis Jones was miles ahead of Emil Smith-Rowe in that tournament. Like in terms of ability, miles ahead. But Emil Smith-Rowe's the guy that Arsenal still want to keep. He's got their number 10. So I have to believe that if Curtis Jones was in that team, he'd probably perform better. So,
and the other question I've got is, what's happened in Curtis Jones's life recently? Has he got married? Has he got engaged? Has his personal life changed? Because that's got a big deal to do with it as well. Is he an immature person? Like, has he started to mature? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, he's young.
These are all questions.
Yeah, no. Listen, they're valid questions. Ultimately, because we are watching these guys, and Jerry mentioned about scrutinizing these guys. Of course, we're looking so deep. We're content creators. So that's what we do. We're going to look at it from every possible angle than your average fan might do so. He's 22 years of age, regardless of anything. So, of course, he is maturing regardless of anything, just through just his age in a general sense. But I will always keep saying, you know, and you asked the question there about the whole would he have developed differently. Again, I look at it and I still say, listen, right now, Jones is doing really, really well at this current moment in time. But it was only 4 months ago, maybe it was even 4, whenever that Chelsea game was. From that point to prior to that, if we had heard that he was being sold by Liverpool, I do not feel that many people would have batted an eyelid like that. Or I definitely don't think there would have been this like uproar. Oh my goodness, they're selling one of our young players, blah blah blah.
But that's football though. It's like if I went and told you, imagine Salah played 38 games next season, but only had 1 goal and 1 assist in all competitions. Like no one's going to be sitting here thinking, yeah, Salah's a guaranteed starter. Like for.
But remember, you'd be basing that off of 1 season. Salah's had 6.
Yeah, but regardless, but even if you had 6 consistent seasons, are you trying to tell me that after Salah having a season where he scores 1 goal and has 1
okay, yeah, that's the dramatic. Yeah, of course.
But that's my point. So what I'm saying is football is fickle. Football, unfortunately, is fickle like that because it's a game for the now, isn't it? You're trying to maximize as much as you can from a player right now. You're not trying to say, yeah, well, we want you to slowly develop. It's like, no, like if you're good enough, you play in it because we need to win now. So with Curtis Jones, unfortunately, you have to base his performances on what he's delivering right now. You can't be looking at what he's done in the past or be thinking about what he's done in the. You got to hope that what he's doing now he can do in the future. Because otherwise, there's pure players where you'd be like, you know what? Yeah, we should bin them off, or this person's overrated because he only done it for a season. It's like, why are we going to get Colwell? He had 1 season. It's like us saying scrap the Colwell, scrap Lavia because they've only had 1 season, or scrap Soboslai because he's only got these. I mean, he's only had played these amount of games and got these stats. It's like, unfortunately, you have to look at what the player's worth, and when you're on form, when you're popping like a Sancho, like a Haaland, like an Mbappe, that's what's going to go and get you your move. It's your performances right now. So right now, Curtis Jones is performing at that level. All we can hope is that he maintains it. But if he maintains it, he's one of Liverpool's best players.
And one other thing I wanted to say, and I'm going to jump off now, and I'll leave you with it as well, actually, is if we'd have played Jones instead of Elliott, where would we have finished this year?
5th.
Same place.
Yeah. I don't feel like he would have been that much of a. He wasn't that much of a big difference even when he came in the last 12 games, and I don't think he would have been that much of a big difference over a course of a season anyway. To be honest, because it was more the whole team. I don't feel like he would have been. I don't. Cause you know what it is? Like if we had finished 4th and Salah got the goals that he had got, then you could have asked that question maybe for like a Salah or something. But for Jones, he's not. I don't think he would have been that good.
Well, if you
in
look
that
at the
space of time.
stats, if you look at the
Yeah.
stats that 12th man brought up, Jones probably would have got about 8 goals if he'd have played the whole season. That's a big difference. And
Yeah.
we
It
didn't
is, but
score
would that have
goals.
made that
And we didn't
much of a
score goals
difference?
against. We didn't score goals against 8 teams that are in the bottom 15 last year. That's a huge difference.
I think. Look, any midfielder, I think any midfielder. Look, if Szoboszlai scores 8 goals in the Prem next season, or McAllister does, or whoever, we're talking about that. Like, yeah, that's an improvement on what we had in it. So if Jones scored 8 goals, we'd be looking at like
remember
losing in it. So
remember, I think the problem that we've got at this and 12. I want you to kind of obviously explain the stats I've obviously got up on the screen before we head out. The problem that we've got, the standards are on the floor. So we're judging this. Big up K-Mac, man. Guys, make sure you head over to K-Mac's channel and subscribe.
See you, K-Mac.
I feel like because the standards are so on the floor, we're in this position where, like you said, if a McAllister or someone gets these 8 goals, we're going to be looking at it thinking, Jesus Christ, this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. Whereas we didn't care about that before. That was never, ever a talking point before when we were challenging and winning. Like, okay, no one scored goals. All right, cool. Do you know what I mean? Because we had the other components obviously doing their thing. 12. Obviously, there's he's got the stats up here of Curtis and Ginny Wijnaldum. Talk us through it, man. You obviously sent it in, but I just wanted to kind of delve into that.
Yeah, of course. Well, the reason why I wanted to bring up, hopefully Ensman's still in there. He might have ran to the bunker because I know he hates stats. But realistically, the reason why I brought this graphic up was because, look, let's be honest, he's 22 years old, whereas opposed to Ginny is 29. So there's that, we spoke about it on your last or one of your last podcasts, where there's that realm of a player where before, usually around 23 is where you're considered that youth player. And then normally during that 23, if not 24 to 28, 29-ish, more like 28 is when that prime stage happens. And then at 29 and on is where you've reached that veteran status where you would have known all the tricks of the trade and were able to do all the different little things that you need to necessarily do. Earlier, we were being, we were talking about how Klopp has molded Curtis into Ginny with the way that he's been trying to perform on the pitch. And the one thing about, we can all say, which unfortunately K-Mac's not with us anymore, but one thing that he definitely exemplifies is intensity. He has a bit of energy. He brings a bit of real pace towards the game. So that intensity correlates to the counter press, which is key to Jurgen Klopp's system. And what he was getting out of Ginny, as you can see in these stats, was some really decent numbers. But when you view it in comparison to what he's now getting out of Curtis Jones, it shows, and obviously Curtis Jones in red and Ginny's in blue, you can see that despite or other than successful dribbles, which is something that you would expect Curtis Jones to be able to exceed in actually. But other than that, really, he is statistically a better player. He's putting out numbers that bring out better numbers. And, again, Ginny had more turnovers. He's able to keep the ball more. Whereas in opposed to the biggest stats that you want to take notice of is the pressure regains. We were talking about that earlier, about how the easiest possible way to get your offense clicking or to get your offense motivated and started is by having an effective counter press. So therefore, those presser regains are essential. You can see that in his numbers, the pressures, the adjacent pressures, the adjacent tackles, all excessively higher than what you got out of Ginny. And that's the reason why you saw a certain number of performance ratings going in his favor. Okay. And when it comes to passing, obviously they're both about similar numbers. But again, those are really why I was trying to bring out. Assist-wise, better numbers, as in those are portions of why we have to keep in mind that this young man who's 22 years old is, if he continues to grow, And I'm placing him, I'm rating him against a 29-year-old man or a 29-year-old man at the time of the 2019-2020 at least campaign. I'm rating him against a 29-year-old man where I just said that's a person that's in their prime, if not just gotten out of their prime years. That's what we're rating him at. That's exceptional. That shows high potential. And what I like about it is that we have a coach that is able to develop players. Sometimes he's able to develop players that and give out factors in their game that they didn't even know they had themselves. Okay. And this system is a complement to that because it often brings out characteristics in players that we never knew existed as well. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring up the statistic and say that piece.
One thing I would say on the stats, though, I think we need to be not careful because I'm a stats man as well, so it's actually good stats. The thing is that Curtis Jones is playing a bit more advanced than Gini Wijnaldum did because the system was a bit different. So as a result, he's further up the pitch. So the great example, the great take from there is obviously the successful dribbles. Gini Wijnaldum had to carry the ball much more than Curtis Jones because he was deeper in the pitch. And when we used to play, he'd carry the ball and then lay it off to a Mane or lay it off to whoever that played alongside him, whether it was Bobby that linked up or it was Robertson on the overlap. So the stats are much better and they do favour him. But obviously the positions were different. But as we can see, he's just a more progressive player, and we can see that through obviously the stats, the deep progressions, and obviously the pressures as well. He's able to go and press much better, and he's got much more energy. It's weird with Curtis Jones. I don't know if you agree with me, 12th man, but I compare Curtis Jones to like a Jordan Poole at the Golden State. What I mean by that, I think he's got the ability and he can go and play, but the decision Liverpool have to go and make now is, are you our guy? And if you're our guy, then
I was just about to ask that.
If you're not our guy, then you've got to go. And I think
they traded him, so I don't know. Like, are we trading Curtis?
But that's what I'm saying. That's the question, isn't it? Is that right now, he needs to play in order to maximize his potential. Whether you want to sell him or whether you want to keep him, right? He has to maximize his potential. He needs to play games. If you go and he doesn't play games, and you've brought in the likes of McAllister and Sobosai to take his position, and Henderson's still going to play the same amount of games, and he becomes that bit part player, you're better off selling him because right now his values will be quite high because of what he's been able to go and do. So, great example of the Golden State. I guarantee you, when they won the chip, was it last season? Like not just gone the season before. If they were interested, or Jordan Poole was interested in getting a trade for any basketball fans, everyone would have wanted him. So many players would have wanted him. So many teams, right? And of course, it's the structure is different in terms of how you can acquire players, but everyone would have been interested. The fact now that this whole situation, he didn't really perform well. They got knocked out of here. He played a couple of games. He ended up at Washington, right? And look, people are still looking at him saying, look, if you can play games, he can be a good player. But this is what happens, unfortunately. And Liverpool have to just make a decision. Do you trust this guy to take you forward now?
Right.
If not, let him go.
But so just to push back on that, or just to necessarily answer that, my opinion, when you say those things, which are very valid points, the key to me is that he fits the system, or he's fitting the system that Klopp has in mind. So I will attest that there are players that we rate higher possibly on this team because of the system. Okay, because he's able to get production out of them. But then you go to see these players go to play at other clubs, and the system doesn't fit them. So therefore, I think that Curtis Jones is showing that he has the ability to play within the system. He's been in the system since the academy, obviously. So, he's obviously got the mindset of what he's expected to bring. And that key part, those key statistics that you brought up as well, that I think are so key for him, is the pressure. The counter press for this club is essential to us at all times. And it's the reason why we saw the difference of like so much attention being drawn towards the back line, so much attention being drawn to how the midfield was able to be was lacking the engine, quote unquote. to be able to maintain the pressure that we needed. But that front line and that in the midfield, if we don't have that counter press, that's when you do see the pressure be pushed upon that back line, and you see the fragility of the team when you have those circumstances occur.
Jerry. Jordan Poole and Curtis are two different people. Curtis is way much better than Jordan Poole.
Jordan
Poole's good.
Jordan Poole.
Are you sure? Jordan Poole's not good. You don't think he's
Jordan Poole? Yeah, he's good. Young talent. He's gonna do better if he had did what he did that season that you're talking about, right? The reason why they bid him, and I know somebody says it's not because they're sentimental. No, Steve Kerr is identical to Klopp. They both believe in the same philosophy. Jordan Poole was talking so much trash. He thought that he was better than this man was shooting the threes from the halfway court. You are not Steph Curry. Stop that foolishness.
Yeah, but the thing is, the problem is I agree, but the reason why I compare them, right, is because when Jordan Poole played, remember, he played his most games when Clay was out injured, when he was coming back from injury, right?
Correct, yeah.
As soon as Clay came back, he went and hit the bench, and now he's got to compete against obviously the best backcourt, you can argue, the best duo, right?
Yeah.
So when Clay can shoot the way he can, and he can get 50 and a quarter as an example, right? Steve Kerr's like, look, he's got to go and play. You then got Steph, which is just I mean, no point.
That analogy.
He now when he's playing, but when Jordan Poole's playing now, it's the same as Curtis Jones. It's I've got to go and shoot this, and I've got to show everyone that I'm good, and I've got to try getting this team. And I know if I do that, then I'm on the same level as Clay. And we said this about Jones. Jones would get the ball, he's not releasing it, he's trying to dribble past everyone. And I see so many similarities. Whereas when he had the confidence, when it was like, you know what, you're going to play. You're just going to play now, and you're going to play every single game, and you're going to play the next game and the next game. By the time the 5th, 6th game came, he's scoring half volleys. Do you know what I mean? Like Dimitar, Matt Letizia-esque. Do you know what I mean? Because he's confident now. Whereas he wouldn't have done that before. He wouldn't have done that before. He would have not even had the confidence.
But do you realistically think though that Klopp decided, hey, I'm just gonna roll the dice on Jones now and just go forward? Or was it just the sense of Jones started to just mesh with the system? And again, this is what I said just earlier in the broadcast. I mentioned what Henderson said about the fact that it was after that Leicester game that he scored. He hadn't scored since 2021 before that game. And when he did score that in that game, all of a sudden you saw that little bit of a bounce and step. It's similar to Hatta. There's a lot of people that were talking about Hatta needs to go. He's washed. He's done. He's this and that. As soon as he scored that one goal, all of a sudden you saw his confidence rebound. And it was like, hey, if you have confidence, you force the coach to have to sit you down, and make that decision, as opposed to you making the decision for the coach that you have to play. And I think that's what Curtis Jones has started to do, is that he started to come into his own skin, in that he understands his role. He understands what he can do.
Yeah, I think as well with Jones, I think this system just fits him better. I know we talk about fitting a system. Before, if you was asked to do that genie role when we just played with Mane, Bobby and Salah, and it wasn't this kind of inverted thing where because Trent comes into midfield, he can actually get further forward and get into the back line and affect those areas. He wasn't as good. It didn't suit him as much. And as much as Klopp wanted him to fit it, I just don't think he did. And I personally feel, I don't think he's fit the system. I think Klopp's put him in a position that fits him better as opposed to him fitting the system, because he doesn't play like Gini Wijnaldum. He doesn't play like Henderson does. He didn't play like Naby Keita. His role's very different. If you look at the positions he's picking up, it's almost Gundogan-esque for City, where he was almost at times, if you just paused it when Trent's got the ball, he's in line with the front three. He's in line with the front three, as in coming off the front line as opposed to receiving the ball deep and having to go and dictate the game. And look, he's proven that he can do it because he's done it for England and he can drop deep and play football. But Liverpool don't play that way. So it's a completely different role that's being asked of him. This more advanced role, I think, suits him better and has given him the confidence to go and express himself more. Before that, Klopp was so rigid. We spoke about changing the system so much. Why don't we play with a 10? We've got Carvalho. Let's play with a number 10. He doesn't want to do it. Why don't we put Jones in the number 10? He doesn't want to do it. It's just 4-3-3. And he died. And ultimately, the reason why we failed last season, in my opinion, is because of him. Whereas as soon as he changed it around and it was a different role for that left-sided, midfielder, we saw a better version of him. And I think he was forced to play him anyway because we didn't have any midfielders. I think someone got injured. I think Thiago wasn't it Thiago.
One quick point though is that Klopp, and I think this is something that's I think it's not properly stated, is that Klopp changed the system. He had 7 formation changes last year. 7. We often think of it as being he just plays 4-3-3 all the time, try and improve every time. He had 7 formation changes. There's an interesting article that goes deep into how Klopp has just been going to the workbench trying to figure out what this team and what these players can really do in any variation of the system that he brings out. And I think that that's something that, you have to keep in mind. I understand your point, but I just think that sometimes we see what we want and we see what we think, but in reality, he's been playing different formations. It's just these players, because of injuries, like we've all mentioned, we've had to have different players be a part of this rotation. Different players have to play different roles that they're not comfortable with sometimes, and that's when that, in my opinion, has been the reason why you've had, success and not success in trying to figure out how to get your feet grounded and actually moving forward with some traction. Go ahead.
Was it just before I'm gonna head out after? We're gonna head out.
Yeah, real quick, with what Tolman just said, the problem with that, what you said, is Klopp was bringing players to do the same thing that the other player didn't do right. Instead of the player that's coming on tailor it so that they bring something different. That was the frustration. So you couldn't see what the different tactics was. It was like we keep doing the same thing because Jerry didn't play well. Kwesi go in and Kwesi go do what Jerry was doing. It didn't make sense, and that was very frustrating. But back to my Jordan Poole analogy, what I was trying to say is they wanted him to take his time to take over the play role, but he was so brash that he was jacking shot. Because of him, Golden State lost a lot of games. Instead of passing the ball, he's trying to do an ISO. That's why I say you can't compare him to Curtis, because Curtis, at least, he has the same temperament as Poole, but he's more respectful, more calm.
Yes.
He won't force an issue. The thing with him is he is too calm and too much relaxed. He needs to be kicking the door down and say, I need to be here. That is my thing with Curtis.
I agree.
Look, I think we'll obviously end it here. I think even just listening to everybody, came back on before Ish, Monts, Jerry, Kwasi, and 12th Man, listening to you guys kind of speak. And I think this was one of the reasons why I wanted to have this kind of discussion about Curtis Jones, is because, ultimately we've all got differences in opinions in terms of what we think is going to happen next season, how we view Curtis Jones now and, potentially in the future. How do we look at it from a Klopp perspective in terms of how he views it, how he sees things and stuff like that? Obviously, we don't know what goes on in Jurgen Klopp's head, but we're just trying to kind of maybe gauge some idea, or something along those kind of lines. So I'd like to thank you guys, obviously, for joining me this evening. There's one last question I will ask you guys before we head out. Just quick, brief. What will his role be next season?
Coffee boy, apparently. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, man. Someone mentioned it. I was like, hey, man.
I've never heard some people have to get coffee so much.
I mean,
just to play, you getting the manager coffee, flipping on us.
As long as he doesn't get punched by Virgil like Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole, we're good. But I think he's going to get in that advanced number 8 role. It's going to be him and McAllister like going toe to toe.
So you don't feel like there can even be a point where we can potentially get both of them in the team at the same time?
McAllister and Jones?
They're too identical. I think they're too identical. That right side, we need somebody to offset their style of play on the right side. So that's where
Jones can't play in the 6.
Huh? I won't put Jones on a single 6. Hell no.
No. But we're talking about in. Let's say we use this inverted thing. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have it the way you just said it. But obviously, we saw what he did for England. Why can't he do the exact same thing for?
But they had.
I'm just.
They had a. I mean, that's true. They had a. They had a double
Southgate and
pivot.
Klopp are not alike.
So, but I think even if you do that Trent thing, he will be like the number 10. You know, get in front of the two pivot, whatever they're. What the formation again? 3-2-2-2-3. I've never seen that before, but whatever that is.
Yeah. No, I'm with Quasi, as in, look, unless we play a 4-2-3-1 and we see McAllister playing the 10, then maybe you could see Jones and McAllister playing together. But I really believe that we are going to gravitate towards that box midfield that we saw so much last year. And I believe that Jones will be competing with McAllister for that advanced midfielder role.
Jerry,
I've got something interesting. I think Jones has a better season than McAllister next year.
That'll be good.
Bold shout. I like it.
Yeah, I made bold shouts. The last time I made a bold shout, I was right after the Champions League, after the quad. So this is my preseason shout. I think Jones. I think McAllister becomes our option off the bench and isn't as effective in his first season as we think he's going to be. I think Szoboszlai is going to be hands down the right hand side of midfield, and if he's available, he plays every single game. And I think McAllister is going to battle out with Jones, but I think Jones will understand the system so much, and I think he's going to start the season well, and as a result, play more games. He might end the season. I don't know if there's an injury. McAllister might end the season having a great season. I'm not taking that away. I think he's a good player, but I just think Jones knows how to operate in that system, and we've seen it work. We don't know how McAllister is going to work. I keep saying it. McAllister and Szoboszlai might not even work as a partnership in midfield.
Very true. Very true.
It might have to be like a Henderson, a Fabinho for McAllister to work, or vice versa. You just don't know until preseason. So we'll have to just wait and see, man. But yeah, bold statement. I'm going bold.
I like it.
Guys, you heard it here first, man. You heard it here first. Jerry. I don't want to take any credit for this.
What about you then? Because you're chickening out. So like,
I know. Right?
Get him.
Honestly, if Liverpool don't sign a DM, I promise you'll see Curtis Jones in that position. I promise you'll see him.
We will.
And that's how I look at it. Is I feel like his role is gonna be, if you hit form, you'll play. If you're kind of a bit wishy-washy, you're not going to get that kind of time to just jump in and out of the team, because we've got we have got a better player than you in that kind of position in McAllister. That's why we signed him, in the first place. So I feel like he'd start out as the squad rotation player. Whoever hits form first between him and McAllister, they'll stay in the team. But I think it will be kind of chopping and changing potentially, in the season. But if we do not sign a 6, and Klopp says, "Nah, I'm good with it," even though I'll be thoroughly angry, I think he'll then just decide to put Curtis Jones in that position. And I think he sees that and he's watched it. And we know how Klopp is, man. He likes to shift it around a lot. So he probably thinks it can work.
Can I say something real quick, too, especially to all the panel? Notice that we all somewhat have forgotten Thiago. Like I said
it in the first hour.
Well, I'm just saying that, we're all mentioning this position that normally Thiago is the one holding that position down. I mean, there's been people in the chat that I've mentioned, big up to the chat, that have been saying how if Thiago doesn't get injured, Jones might not have seen nearly half the minutes that he got to see, period.
Maybe true. I just think Klopp's done with Thiago. I think Klopp's done this with Thiago. Because you can't trust him, you can't rely on him, and I think we
that's
wouldn't.
A bold statement too. That's two bold statements.
That's true, but I think that's what it is. I think
saying a lot right now this evening.
I know. I like it.
When I went to the West Ham game and I saw Thiago come on for Henderson, and I thought Curtis Jones would come off, and Henderson's actually the one that came off, and Thiago for the last 5 minutes came on at right centre mid and was doing the Henderson role, running around and making the false runs to give Trent space, I knew it was done. I knew it was over. And the fact that he was fit at the back end of the season and didn't play any games suggests to me, like with the midfielders that we've brought in, he's going to be a bit part player. So look, if he's in the squad, great, you've got an option there. But if he wants to play games, he won't be at Liverpool, unfortunately.
Wow. You got it.
All right,
You got exclusives. You got 2 exclusives.
2, man.
2 exclusives.
Like I said, if you
I'm not
guys want to
Stephen
find
A.
Jerry,
I'm coming in with
the Jerry James Show on YouTube channel, it's Jerry James on Twitter. Do not DM me and ask me about. I didn't say. I'm gonna ask everyone this quick question before obviously we head out. Big up Jay Kismet. Big up everybody who was in the chat obviously during the show, man. Thank you guys for rocking with us this evening. Jay Kismet, question for you guys. Which front three are you going with for the first game versus Chelsea? He's going with Jota, Darwin, and Salah. He thinks there's going to be goals galore. I'll start off with you, 12. Who's your front three for the first game?
Good. I like being on the hot seat. So, all right, first off, you can't necessarily go by history to say that there's going to be goals galore, considering that the last 4 meetings we've had with them have been nil-nil draws. Okay, but what I can say, and the end is at the bridge, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to make a call as to how many goals or what we're even going to score. But my front three would be Diaz, Nunez, and Salah.
Diaz, Nunez, and Salah. Yes. Okay, cool. Quasi?
Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah.
Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah. And Jerry?
With what Kwasi said, innit? Like, it's Gakpo. Yeah, man. Nunez is Origi, man. He took his number, took his role.
See, why you gotta end with violence, JJ? Come on, man.
It's not violence. I just think he needs to understand his role. The fact that the number 9's there floating, the changes have been made. You know, Diaz got the number 7. Nunez, the number 9 hasn't been a sniff. They're going to keep that fresh for the next player. And I guarantee you, Gakpo's more likely than anyone to get that number.
Wow.
But not this season.
Just talking about pulling the threes.
No, not this season. This is just hope. But I think Nunez is, like I said, great option off the bench, man. Changes the dynamic of our Liverpool want to play if they want to be a bit more direct.
Okay. I'll end it. I will go with Jota, Gakpo, and Salah.
No ballers. I hear it.
I'll go with those guys. I don't want Diaz. I don't.
You don't like tech, do you? Innit? You don't like technical players, do you?
Not on the clock. No, not on the clock. No.
Yeah, I hear you. I can see.
Anybody else? Yeah. I'm with it. You know me. Like I love my favorite player. You know, is Iniesta. Like tech is all I care about. But under Jurgen Klopp, we literally just spent a whole stream talking about the role of Curtis Jones, and the takeaway I got from that was Klopp basically killed all of the technical abilities that he's had and the flair that he was showing, and he's now turned him into this retention, ball recovery midfielder to fit into the system, always fitting into the system, not able to adapt to the player that you get. And I think Mont's mentioned it before as well about we had Caters, we've had these kind of players where Fabio Carvalho's, even a Coutinho to a certain extent, we've had these players come in. Does it really work? It works for some games. It looks okay for other games. Thiago, would we say that Thiago looks good? To take away his injuries, if Thiago wasn't injured, do you prefer Thiago now or Thiago when he was at Bayern Munich? Like that Thiago has been talked about as being one of the best midfielders in the world. This guy can't even get near the top 10, 15 midfielders in the world, even when he is fit. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it is one of those kind of things, man. But
come on, let's end on some positive. We're on a positive note.
That's harsh.
Now, positive will say positive. Positive will say this.
It's at Nunez.
No. You know what? All right, cool. Positive will end on this. I think that Jones will play. You said he played 18 in the Premier League last season, right?
11.
Yeah.
Oh, 11. Oh, early 11. Okay. Oh, too easy then. All right. I'll say he'll play.
No, Jones played 18. He played 18.
Oh yeah, sorry.
18, I think you said.
Yeah, 11 on the back end, 18 and all. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, then I'll go with he'll play 25 games. He'll get 5 goals, 3 assists. Which I think is pretty decent. You know what I mean? Like
that's two above each of his numbers. He had 3 goals and 1 assist last year. So okay.
There you go.
5 and 3.
I think that's all right. But guys, thank you for obviously joining me this evening. Big up Quasi, big up 12, big up
G. Can I do a shameless plug?
Yeah, well, yeah, please. Yeah. I was just about to get into that. But...
Oh yeah, tomorrow, Crucible TV. I got G. I got 12 man. Jerry, we would love to have you there. We have a big topic that G brought up. We want to discuss the state of the academy and the loan system. We personally feel that is the most atrocious system we got right now, especially spending 50 million on that shrine that we have over there. So we would like to talk about it tomorrow at 8 p.m. at Crucible TV. So please show up. I'll send you the link if you could make it. I would love.
And here I was just about to even ask, guys, make sure you head over to Quasi channel, please. Make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe. 12, you got anything popping?
Yeah, I'm gonna do another Nunez Defense League, and represent. I think my bold shout, since we're getting bold shouts, Nunez will bang next year and have 20+ goals. That's what
in the league.
Yeah, 20+ goals in the league. Yeah. Yep.
Jerry,
I believe that the addition of McAllister and Dom. I said it. I know. Hey, you said bold statements. Hey, come on.
Hey, like I said, I'm not taking credit for nobody's statement. Do your thing. I don't know. I'm messaging me saying, "Oh, yo, G, you was on that shot." No.
My turn for bold statement. Mbappe to Liverpool.
Oh goodness! Now, yeah. See. Now.
Jerry, please let the people know where can they find you. What have you got popping on, guys? If you missed his show earlier on today, please make sure you head over to. He's in my description.
Good show today.
Yeah. His link is always going to be in my description, regardless. Obviously, JJ is my brother, so guys, please make sure you head over there to check out his channel. But what you got popping for the rest of the week, my bro?
If I'm being honest, I don't really know. It's a bit boring when it comes to Liverpool right now, man. If I'm being honest, there's just no news. I spoke about Lavia. We've spoken about Soboslai, Henderson news. I've spoken about Thiago. Unless I start creating just issues, I might just come out with I might pretend to be an ITK and just say, I
was going to say, but why don't you just pretend to be an ITK?
Yeah, Linda's leaving or something like that and just plaster that all over socials and see. You know, I might even run some Instagram ads and see if I can get some traction that way. Maybe pop off. Hell no. So, yeah, man. Just like I said, just stay in the loop. If there's any news, if there's anything popping, we'll make sure we'll bring it to you on the Joe James show, man.
Guys, and there you have it. Love to everybody, as I mentioned before, rocking with us this evening. We had a look, obviously, at Curtis Jones. Please make sure you guys are sharing this kind of content out. We'll be bringing you a lot more as the weeks and months obviously run itself down. I'm G. Big up Jerry. Big up Quasi. Big up 12. And we are out.